Team, welcome back to another episode of Ask Top. Today we're going to discuss how to develop an OER support form or DA Form 67-10-1 Alpha. Your rater and senior rater should provide you with their support forms so that you can generate your support form. Now they're required to do that. It's not an option, but getting them is a little bit different than what they're supposed to do. Some raters and senior raters are really good at sharing that information. Others just don't share it, or you have to beat them up to get it. Generally, support forms from your rater and senior rater will have broad guidance on them. You will have to refine that guidance and make it specific that is something executable at your level. Hey, we appreciate you checking us out at Ask Top, and we'd like to thank our sponsors, MentorMilitary.com. If you like the information that we're putting out, please hit the subscribe button and leave us a comment about this video and maybe a subject you'd like to see us cover in the future. By the way, I'm going to place a link to an example OER support form in the description below. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk about writing a duty description, which is incredibly important, and then go over the entire OER support form. Our references are the regulation and the DA-PAM 623-3. Writing a duty description. Principal duty title, leadership versus technical. All right, this is important because leaders understand key terms. Platoon leader, company commander, executive officer, operations officer. Understanding a different term like ammunition officer, it's broad. And what does that person really do? I don't know. Do I have to read this whole duty description? I don't have time to read that whole duty description. And I'm talking from a perspective of people sitting on promotion boards and other selection boards. So, generally, typically, usually, one of the things we hear from boards is they read the first and last sentence. So whatever you do, this duty description has to be impactful. And if you notice, we say operations officer here, and then the first sentence talks about what your job is. Serves as the S3 officer for the only forward deployed field artillery battalion in the Army. Now we're going to discuss the type of unit and mission. Providing direct support to Allied forces of Task Force 20. Plans, controls, coordinates, and execute mission requirements for the battalion. Prepares all operation, warning orders, and fragmentary orders. Develops policy and strategy for the battalion. Develops, analyzes, and executes oversight of all battalion training requirements. Translates complex operational requirements into simple and effective plans that allow subordinate units to promptly execute and accomplish operational requirements. Develops, oversees, and reports unit readiness status to the battalion commander and coordinates corrective action with other staff organizations while capitalizing on strategic advantages. Develops composition of forces to support operational requirements. All right, so we covered just about everything an S3 can do. And you gotta be a superhero in these duty descriptions. Now, what's left? We're gonna finish with the number of soldiers, property, and accountability, but we're also gonna include any additional duties you may have. So if it's worth mentioning as an additional duty, it's important and you better have something in your support form about it. So let's finish up this duty description. Additional duties include training officer, battle captain, and battalion battle staff trainer. Supervises 8 NCOs and 2 officers. Responsible and accountable for property in excess of $8 million. So, as we said earlier, we started out with what your job is very clearly, the S3 officer, and we wrapped it up with who you supervise and what you are responsible and accountable for in terms of property. Now let's look at performance objectives and accomplishments. Read your rater and senior rater support form. This is where you get the broad general guidance that you have to dissect and translate to specific objectives so that you can clearly delineate accomplishments and contributions. What's important to your rater and senior rater better be important to you. You should not be writing stuff on your support form that doesn't correspond with what your rater and senior rater have put down. Otherwise, it looks like you don't understand what's going on. List your overall goals and specific goals that might not fit into other categories. Basically, what I'm saying here is use it as an overflow area. If you can't put it on the back of the support form and it's important, list it here. As I said, it's an overflow area. If it's listed, it better be important. And that means it better show up on your support form. It may not show up in your evaluation report, but it better show up in your support form and have strong accomplishments associated with it. If you have a leadership position as an additional duty, which some people might, you might be the S3 officer, but be a platoon leader for the headquarters platoon. Now, that would be extremely rare, but it is possible, and it would need to be discussed in the duty description as well, because it's incredibly important. Let me go back. The duty description, principal duty title. In some cases where it says operations officer, you might put a dash there and say platoon leader as well. And this will be all up to your S1 or how they do things. Are they doing it by MTO titles? Or are they doing it by what you're actually doing? So it would be important to have operations officer and platoon leader because it shows leadership time, and you want all the leadership time you can get. All right, let's get to it. Bang. If it is listed, it should appear in your achievement statements. I've mentioned that before. So again, if it's on your support form, it better be important. What's important to your rater and senior rater should be important to you. And if it's listed, there needs to be an achievement associated with it. The next area we're going to discuss is character. I want you to take some time and think through the areas on the back of the support form, because these are broad areas that you need to go out and do some research on. Your objectives can be broad or specific. Basically, do you want to generalize or be specific? As I said earlier, you need to underpromise and overdeliver. Don't claim to do everything extremely well or that you're going to just smoke things. Be realistic, and if you exceed that goal, you've achieved something. Now, in character, what we came up with was be approachable. Create a disciplined section capable of sustaining operations in my absence. So we're just going to talk about one example, be approachable. Approachability resulted in identifying one soldier at risk of suicide that received help and now is very productive. So very approachable, very broad, and very specific achievement. Now create a disciplined section capable of sustaining operations in my absence. Okay, so kind of specific. Now we're going to get to the accomplishment, very specific. Reduce disciplinary action from 5 in the past 12 months to 0 by implementing a soldier retraining program designed to solve issues at the lowest appropriate level. So presence. Before we get into that, if you're getting some benefit out of this, please reach down and hit the subscribe button. Leave us a comment about what we're doing well or subject areas you might want to see in the future. Now with presence, how do you carry yourself? What is your level of fitness? What will you do to improve your subordinates, platoon, squad, section? This is a living document, as I shared with you before. Meaning it can be changed throughout the rating period. However, some raters and senior raters don't want you to change it. Once you write it down, you got to stick to it. So again, I go back to basically you have to underpromise and overdeliver. So also, what is your military bearing? So let's see what we put here. Ensure entire section passes physical fitness and maintains appropriate weight and appearance. Pretty specific, right? So develop an environment that reduces safety incidents from 10% to less than 3% within 3 months. Wow, that's really specific. Through education and policies, implementation reduce safety incidents battalion-wide from 10% to 3.9% in 4 months. Didn't exactly hit your goal, but you came close. Intellect. How will you handle yourself in difficult situations? How will you develop your subordinates to handle stress? How will you solve problems more efficiently? So, again, just one example here. Bring staff and unit commanders together in a positive solution-oriented manner. Transformed a formerly tenuous relationship with unit commanders and other staff sections into a relationship of trust built on sharing knowledge and seeking solutions. Leads. How do you lead people? Does your leadership style support the objectives you want to achieve? What are the results of how you are leading your team? How do others view your leadership style? Again, you have to think through these keywords, leads, presence, stuff like that, so that you understand what the word means. There are also Army manuals in the MSAF 360 and a couple other guides that will walk you through exactly what they mean and whether you're sustaining or needs improvement in those areas. So take a look at that. And we're going to look at one example here. Take care of soldiers within my section and external to the section as necessary. Identified a withdrawn soldier that was being hazed and promptly resolved the issue through disciplinary action and education. Hey, here are 2 tools that you can get from mentormilitary.com that'll help you on evaluations, to include support forms. Develops. How are you motivating your subordinates to excel? What is the overall environment you want to achieve? How do you plan to develop others? What areas do you want to focus on? Let's take this one. Encourage soldiers to develop themselves professionally and personally. Okay, that is a broad statement. Now, developed an NCO mentoring program that ensured soldiers and NCOs were completing all professional schooling to standard, resulted in all soldiers attending and passing appropriate schools, 3 promoted below the zone. So we went from something very broad to something very specific again. What outcomes are you looking for? Make sure you're developing your subordinates. Achieves. We're looking for results. How do you lead people? What does your leadership style support the objectives you want to achieve? What are the results of how you are leading your team? How do others view your leadership style? Increase section maintenance readiness from 82 to 95% within 2 months and maintain this rating. Very specific. What was the achievement? Increased maintenance readiness to 98% in 1.5 months and has consistently maintained a rating of at least 95% throughout the rating period. So we went from a specific objective to a specific contribution. Now the questions I'm providing are just open-ended questions for you to think about, but by no means are they the only questions you should be thinking about. Come up with your own questions. Sit down and think through the process. Look at what the rater and senior rater are saying on their support forms. How do you turn that in to something that's specific to you, that then in turn your subordinates can use to develop their support forms? All right, summary. What do you do if the duty title and duty description don't match? You're going to talk to your senior rater and your rater, and you're going to try and get that cleared up so that it is very specific so the board understands what you're doing. Develop a duty description. We talked about that. Your leadership position, number of soldiers supervised, type of unit, what it does, equipment, quantity, and value. Additional duties. What are they? What do you need to do to achieve them? What is the impact of failing to do them? What is their current state? How can you improve them? Use your rater and senior rater support form. What's important to them better be important to you. Take the time to reflect on what each portion of the evaluation report is talking about so that you can develop your objectives, so that you can come up with some good achievements. It's incredibly important that you reflect upon those definitions. Google them. Go out and look for support forms that have already been completed on Google. Look to your peers and your superiors. Come up with meaningful and achievable goals. Hey, if you found this presentation useful today, follow us on Facebook at AskTop and at Mentor Military. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you have any professional development needs, odds are it's available from mentormilitary.com. So if you get a chance, visit us at the store. And until next time, stay safe and stay healthy.